Again, just want to thank you guys for being here. Just want to take a moment to talk about kind of the goals of the trip, and then we'll actually go through the itinerary, although it's not completely set in stone yet. At least we have a decent idea of kind of what it'll look like, and we'll go through that. We'll talk about cost and payments and stuff like that, and of course we want to make sure we answer any questions you guys have about the trip. But we're really excited about this trip. I anticipate, and Danny anticipates, it's going to be extremely powerful. Of course, our primary goal in the trip is that we would have an encounter with Jesus. That's kind of our goal for everything that we do, and certainly a trip to the Holy Land, the place where he actually walked in the flesh. There's something about connecting your faith with that really is extremely powerful. I went in 2013, brought my daughter with me, and I can testify, you absolutely encounter the Lord in a very personal, powerful way when you touch down and put your feet on the actual land. Also I find, and part of our goal is that we would really connect our faith even more. It really makes the Bible come alive in a fresh way. There's so many stories that we read, and obviously almost everything in the Bible took place pretty much within the land of Israel for the most part. And so there's so many stories, there's so many sites, there's so many things mentioned, and when you see it with your eyes and touch it with your hands and walk, I mean literally there are some places that they know with great certainty the accuracy of the historical site. There's places that you'll walk that they're very confident Jesus himself literally walked on the same pathway and the same stones. There's a synagogue that we'll get to go see that they're pretty confident he actually preached in that synagogue at one point. They actually found Peter's house, and so you get to see the Apostle Peter's house. I mean, there's just some really cool stuff. So there's something about connecting your faith, and it really makes the Bible come alive. So that's obviously one of our goals as well. Certainly a big part of the trip will be a tour. We'll be going around and visiting different cities. We'll be visiting different sites, archaeological sites, important sites in the Bible. But also, we do want to emphasize, we want to leave a lot of room for flexibility. We want to leave room for the Lord to be able to do whatever he wants to do and to lead us however he wants to lead. I think it's important to remember that Israel is not just about the sites, but about the people as well. And so we just trust that God's going to make connections and just do things. We'll have opportunities maybe to meet people, to minister. Danny will probably share more about that. One of the guys going on the trip is Surprise. If you remember Surprise, when he was last year. And, he's always a surprise. And God does surprising things with him. And so probably, Danny, you can share just a lot more of that. And
the whole thing about the trip that was amazing was how supernatural it became. It was not just a visit to Israel. We ended up, on our particular trip, we won't be going on this particular trip, but we ended up on the other side of Jericho at Elisha Spring. The entire team got baptized in Elisha Spring, which was a very unique thing because it's a little channel. So it's not this big, huge river. But then we ended up ministering and talking to all the kids, and ended up other things that happened literally 2 weeks before we left. Surprise called me and he said, there's somewhere where we have to go when we're over there because the Lord's put us on a mission to confront something that will have worldwide ramifications. And it did. I've seen the evidence of it already. So it's a pretty phenomenal thing. Often people have walked up to Surprise over there, and they'll just say, follow me. And he'll end up in very unique places with all kinds of things. We've had world leaders show up at some of the meetings. I got to lead worship up on Mount Zion, and I got to lead worship basically in the pit of hell at that point in time too. The World Center for Freemasonry is there, and that was one of the missions that we were on. We actually went in there, didn't have to pay, which you have to pay. It's a huge cave, and went through there and prayed, and the Lord showed up big time in there. to such a degree that 2 years later, there were people there who had never heard my story. They couldn't understand why when they walked into this place, the presence of the Lord was so thick in there. And it was because of something that we were sent on a mission to go do. And so very excited about that, very excited about, we had a lot of ministry times in the evenings, both to the team, but also just to some of the locals that were there. Got to minister to them. There were some leaders, I don't know if I mentioned that, but some leaders who came in from the outside secretively into our meetings that we were able to minister to from surrounding nations. So pretty awesome. I think I have no clue what it will be this time, but with surprise, things generally end up extremely supernatural, and it's pretty fun. So, yeah,
that's awesome. Cool. So it is important just to keep that in mind, to be flexible. Again, we do have a tour set up that is a major part of the trip that we'll keep to. But again, you just never know what God's going to do, and if a good opportunity opens up to be able to see something that we normally couldn't see, we certainly want to take that opportunity. And if God brings divine appointments or connections, we want to be able to go with that. It'll be awesome. So, unless there's any questions at this point, maybe it would be good to go over the itinerary, kind of the sample of what we're hoping to do here. You'll actually see it on the third page. And again, I do just want to emphasize it's not entirely final yet. There's a few things we're working out, but this will probably give you a pretty decent idea of what things will look like. So we will be departing out of New York City somewhere. Not sure which airport yet, but somewhere out of New York is where we'll depart. We'll be flying into Tel Aviv. If we're fortunate, we might be able to get a direct flight, although I would not count on it. For some reason, the direct flights, there doesn't seem to be too many of those anymore. So we'll probably have some connection somewhere. At this point, we're looking at leaving on Thursday. It'll probably be Thursday evening, the 24th of September. And we'll arrive on the 25th on Friday in Tel Aviv. We will spend the first night in a place called Netanya. It's right on the shore. Kevin, I don't know if you can throw up the slide, kind of some of the pictures here, if you just want to be able to see stuff. So up in the upper left-hand corner, it says the Netanya Seasons Hotel. That's an example of the hotel we may be staying in. All right, very nice. So that'll be our first day. When we get there, we'll just basically relax and hang out by the ocean. The next day, we're going to head up the coast. We're going to head up to Caesarea Maritima. Really, really neat archaeological site. Very important site within the Bible as well. This is probably the area where Peter went to Cornelius. And again, there's some really cool archaeological sites there. We'll also go up to Megiddo. And Megiddo is a very significant archaeological site. Long history. It's actually the site of the last battle in the book of Revelation. As well as it's one of the cities that Solomon built one of his palaces and places to hold his horses. They've got like 26 layers of archaeological history there. It's really fascinating. Beautiful spot. We'll also head up to Mount Carmel. You may be familiar with that, with Elijah and the confrontation he had up there. We'll spend the night in the Sea of Galilee in Tiberias. Probably at the Leonardo Club. Very, very nice hotel. There's a picture of it there as well. You can see there. The Sea of Galilee is a really important spot. We'll spend several days up there. It's one of the major places where Jesus spent a lot of time ministering. We'll go to Capernaum. Great archaeological site there. That's where Peter's house is. We'll get to take a boat ride actually on the Sea of Galilee. Really neat experience. Also, there's the spot where Jesus multiplied the fish and loaves. There's another great city called Sosida, or Hippos. They suspect that was possibly the spot where he cast out the legion of demons and sent them into the pigs who ended up into the sea. So Gene spent a lot of time up there, so we'll spend several days kind of checking out all the different sites up there. Really beautiful, beautiful spot. Then we'll start to head down. That's up more in the north. Then after spending several days there, we'll begin to head back down. We'll come down near the Jordan River. If anybody wants to get baptized in the Jordan River, very neat experience. So we'll take some time. We'll actually be there. We'll have an opportunity for those who want to get baptized. We'll actually baptize you in the river if you'd like to do that. We'll continue kind of going down south, and we'll end up at the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is a really neat experience. If you're not familiar with it, it's obviously a sea that's literally dead. There's no life in it. It has an extraordinarily high salt content. When you get in the water, you will literally bob like a cork. If you want to submerge yourself, you can't. It's a really neat experience. Because of all the minerals and stuff, it's a really neat spot, a high-end spa area. The ladies may love that kind of stuff. One of the things you can actually do there is cover your body head to toe in this black mud, and then go rinse yourself off in the in the Dead Sea, and it's supposed to be phenomenal for your skin. And then we'll actually spend a night there at a resort and spa. It'll be kind of a down day and a really relaxing day. So you have that opportunity just to hang out, sun if you want to sun, hang out in the Dead Sea. There's a beautiful resort there with a pool and stuff. So, the trip will tend to be intense at times in terms of, there's a lot of stuff to see. And we'll certainly want to pack in as much as we can without completely exhausting ourselves. And this will actually be kind of a more relaxing down day, so it'll be a lot of fun to do. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a cool experience. Then we'll head over to Masada. Masada is probably one of the most popular attractions in Israel, actually. There's a picture there. I'm trying to see what page it is. It's on the second page, bottom right-hand corner. And if you're familiar with any of the history, if you recall, when the Jews revolted against Rome, Rome came in and they first destroyed Jerusalem. And after they destroyed Jerusalem, many of the Jews had fled to this stronghold called Masada. It's literally got like 400-foot sheer cliffs. And this became kind of the last holdout. And the Romans eventually got there, sieged it, and were able to get up and conquer it and literally just slaughtered everybody. But it's a very significant historical site. So we'll have a chance to go check that out as well. Elah Valley is another place we'll go while we're in that area. It's probably, they suspect it's the place where David and Goliath had their famous battle. So we'll get to see that as well. We will see Qumran. Qumran is a desert community. It's suspected that the group that was there would have been a similar group that John the Baptist came from and probably spent time with. So neat experience. And we'll head up to Jerusalem from there, because the Dead Sea, between the Dead Sea and Jerusalem, is considered the wilderness area. It's probably where Jesus maybe even spent his 40 days in the wilderness. It's kind of a neat drive to see the difference between the Dead Sea and the desert, and it literally is desert wilderness. And then you make your trip up to Jerusalem through the mountains and stuff. It's a very cool thing. And then we'll spend the rest of our time in Jerusalem, which is an absolutely phenomenal city. And obviously historically significant, spiritually extremely significant. You'll really want to be able to spend some time there. There's some amazing sites that we'll see. We will see the Old City. We'll see, they have discovered parts of David's palace. Very neat. For those who are adventurous, we will take a trip through Hezekiah's tunnel. Very cool experience, and this was a tunnel that Hezekiah built during a time when there was a siege against Jerusalem, and he had to build this tunnel down to the pool of Siloam to get water. They actually started it at opposite ends. It's built 60 feet under the ground. It's 1,600 feet long. They began at opposite ends, and they actually met in the middle within 3 feet. I have absolutely no idea how they could do that from an engineering perspective, but it's pretty neat. But we'll actually walk through it. Water is still flowing through it, so you will get a little bit wet If you're claustrophobic, you'll want to avoid this particular one because it literally is no wider than your shoulders. At some point, you can walk. At other points, you have to duck down. It's 1,600 feet in pitch black. You can bring little flashlights if you'd like. At some point, we usually stop in the middle of it and go completely dark. And it's kind of a neat, fun experience. But if you don't like dark, cramped spaces and you're claustrophobic, you don't have to do this. There's a way around, and you can meet us at the Pool of Siloam, which is a very significant site, of course. So, well, it's kind of one of my personal favorites, so made sure it's on this trip. Just kind of a cool thing, kind of a cool factor. We'll obviously go visit the Mount of Olives, very significant. One of the things I found so cool is that's the one where Jesus had his conversation in Matthew 24:25 with his disciples about the end days. And he was overlooking, at that point, from the Mount of Olives, overlooking the temple. And you can stand there, you can see the Temple Mount, you can picture in your mind this temple, which was amazing, huge, and beautiful. And just hearing him talk to his disciples as he's looking over this site is really significant. It brings to life that whole passage in Matthew when he talks about things that would happen, and he's really talking about ultimately the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. And it's just a powerful, powerful time. We'll visit things like the Garden of Gethsemane, Golgotha, where he was crucified. We'll go on the Via Dolorosa, which is, they suspect, the route that Jesus took as he carried his cross. So a lot of neat things. We'll go to the upper room. And I got to be honest with you, when I got to the upper room, I was pretty unimpressed. And here's the reason why. It's actually not the upper room. It's sort of a, well, I wouldn't say fake. It's sort of the site that's become celebrated for it, which is okay. You have to understand that not every site, they have complete accuracy in terms of was this the actual site. And to be honest with you, that isn't always important because sometimes just connecting your faith to it is very powerful.
It's true.
So I was kind of unimpressed, but I got to tell you what happened. When we got up into the upper room as a group, and I'm kind of got a little bit of an attitude, the presence of God showed up so powerfully that most of the group couldn't stand. The leader of the group, Cheon, literally just boom on the floor. There's like 80 people in there from all different nations, all different groups are in there. And we're all of a sudden, we're worshiping, people are falling out, people are running over, praying for each other. And from what I've heard, it's not an uncommon thing to happen. So it just shifted my whole attitude because I was kind of going like, oh, well, this isn't the actual upper room, and all of a sudden God shows up and just blows my attitude out of the water, and stuff like that's important. So they're usually very good at being able to distinguish. This is a site we have extreme confidence is the site we think it is. Other sites, this is the traditional feeling where the location was. And you know what? It doesn't matter. What matters is that it really helps connect your faith. And it's very, very powerful. When God shows up, there's not much better than that.
No.
I cannot think of as much fun as the historical sites are. The presence of God is like a gazillion times more fun. And that's really what our primary hope is that as we're traveling around Israel, visiting sites, meeting people, ultimately what we want to do is meet God, meet Jesus, have an encounter with him.
Yeah.
This area, this land is very precious to him. It has historical significance, it has spiritual significance, it has eternal significance, and it's just a powerful experience. So, is there anything else you want to add? I don't want to.
One of the things that actually is pretty amazing, we are actually going during the Feast of Tabernacles. There are many who believe that the feast is going to be is probably one of the most significant things coming in apocalyptic future. That it's many point to the feast period of time that's when things are going to really happen. Jesus, it was during the feast that you hear him and he cried out in a loud voice. There's something about the feast that was a very important thing. But also, we're going to be there actually during the fourth blood moon, which will happen on September 28th. So it's a very, very unique time to be there. I don't know exactly what that all means. I'm not trying to, figure it out. I just think it's a good time for us to go. Surprise actually goes almost every year, and he goes always during Tabernacles. And there's a reason he goes during Tabernacles, and it's very. I'm actually going to just read. It's a verse in Zechariah that we here in the West we don't even ever consider, but he does it because he just thinks it's beneficial to his own nation if he goes. And it actually says this in Zechariah 14, verse 16. And then the survivors from all the nations that have attacked Jerusalem will go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, and to celebrate the festival of tabernacles. If any of the peoples of the earth don't go up to Jerusalem to worship the King during that period of time, they will have no rain. And so Surprise saw that verse that was like, the Lord says, you need to just go. And the simplicity of his faith was like, he started going. And God began doing incredibly supernatural things when he was there. And it's a period of time where it's very unique. In fact, a lot of tour companies would say, you need to go at a different time, you need to go at a different time. But the reality is that there is a culture that is living on the street during the Feast of Tabernacles. Because they basically live their lives out in booths during this time. So you're watching things as you're going down streets, you're seeing these booths that are put out, and everybody's living in them. It's just crazy, and it's kind of like a huge party in Jerusalem when this is happening, the whole thing. And I remember on the last trip, Surprise was just one of the evenings. All of a sudden, we hear this singing happening, and a bunch of Orthodox were coming down through the streets dancing, holding the Torah, big. I mean, we're talking huge. They're carrying it and they're dancing with the Torah, and somebody saw it, and they actually grabbed a yarmulke off of somebody else and put it on Surprise, and they handed him the Torah, and he's dancing through the streets with all these Orthodox. It was incredible. We actually have that on video, but don't think this is a tour. It's going to be boring. There's not going to be a sense of life. There will be experiences you will have that, and for me, those are the valuable things, because those are the things you'll remember. You might remember, oh yeah, I remember what Golgotha looked like. Oh yeah, I remember that. But what you're going to bring home are going to be the stories that are your stories. The things you go, you can't believe what just happened. We walked into this thing, and here's what exploded. And so, for me, that's one of the most critical things for us to see. But I like that verse. I just thought cool. It's a good verse. It's like it's helpful in knowing why we might even be going then. If any nation needs blessing from God, we sure do. So,
I just want to reemphasize too that you just don't know exactly where and how God's going to show up for you, and it's different for every person. My daughter came with me on the last trip I took, and when she was at the site of his crucifixion, we had communion there as a group there, and she had such an encounter with Jesus that literally changed her life. So powerful. She was just in tears. She was just overcome by his presence in such a real way there. For her, that was probably the highlight of the entire trip, and almost everybody in our group, could share stories like that, where there was certain things, certain places where God just showed up in amazing ways. Something about someone you met, or a sight you saw, or just his presence that just wrecks you. And to me, that's the best stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm a history buff, so I go crazy over archaeological sites. I'd go to all of them if I could. I like that kind of stuff, but nothing can compare to just an encounter with God. And it's just very powerful. So it'll just be unique for you. The other thing too is we'll find, you'll meet some really neat people. Obviously, some people you'll know. We'll have several from our church, but there'll be people from potentially. You said maybe even.
Oh yeah, I've already had some folks from Poland.
From Poland and other
stuff.
stuff.
In a conference with me, they said, "Can we meet you there and join the tour?" So.
And that's a real highlight for a trip like this, is the people you get to meet on the team. You'll get to bond with other people, other brothers and sisters from other parts of the U.S. or other parts of the world, possibly. And or even just your brother who you knew here at River of Life, but maybe something happens while you're there, and you just bond, and you just have experiences together that are pretty cool. So it's a very powerful part. The team dynamics are exciting and fun. So it's good.
Yeah, and there will be people from across the U.S. We already know that. So we've got folks already from across the U.S. who are like, "I'll be there." So that's going to happen.
Are there any questions, especially as it relates to sort of the itinerary or things we'll be doing, or?
Danny, have you been to Israel?
Oh yeah.
So you've kind of been through all this?
Yeah. Well, I've been through some of it, not all of it, but yeah. I have.
Yeah. And we will have a tour guide. So there'll be I'm not sure exactly who it will be yet, but it'll be somebody, so they'll be doing a lot of the teaching. They'll, and Jay and I will add in some stuff ourselves, but they'll probably be doing a lot of the bulk of it. They'll have a lot of good information. The tour guides are really, really good. So they, yeah, we'll have more details as we go on. We'll give you a whole suggested packing list and all that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, it's warm days and cool nights. So it is a bit of a drier time of the year, I believe. I think it's getting near the beginning of the dry season. What's that? How's the water? Yeah, the water's fine there. Yeah, you'll have no problem. The food, depending on your particular taste, I really enjoyed the food. I happen to love Mediterranean food, and so Israeli food has got a little bit of a Mediterranean flair to it. So there's some good food. It's different, obviously. Breakfast will be different than a U.S. breakfast. They like a lot of meats and stuff. If you like hummus, you probably will wonder if you've ever had hummus after you've had the hummus here.
Do we need to get shots updated? I don't know if you need shots for Israel.
No, there's no shots requirement. Certainly you want to make sure stuff like tetanus and stuff, that's always a good idea to have those up to date. Probably not a bad idea to visit your doctor and just let them know and let them give you any kind of recommendations. They would be the most up to date, but there's no particular shots that are required to go. There's no visa that's required to go to Israel either. You do obviously have to have a passport. You will want to make sure the passport expires at least 6 months after the date of our departure. So that's just one thing to check. Sometimes people don't think of that because we're going in October. They think, oh, my passport expires December, I'm good. No, you're not. You won't get in.
Yeah,
6 months after.
Yep.
So that basically means it has to expire after April 5th of 2016. If it expires before then, get it renewed now.
Yeah. The other thing that a couple things that, particularly if you're going to go into missions anywhere else outside of Israel, in a Muslim country anywhere, you don't want your passport stamped. Weston said that the last time they didn't stamp his. But when we were going through, basically you just tell them, please don't stamp it. They'll give you a piece of paper, they'll stick it inside your passport. The reason is because you'll have a hard time getting into any other country if you've been to Israel. And then also, they are incredibly, their security and with the airlines, don't make deviations on the list we'll send you to any great degree. I mean, you bring it. You do not want to get stuck. I've been literally strip searched. Both Surprise and I were, and another pastor. Spent 3.5 hours in a room with their security over just not knowing what we were going there to do. And so that's going to be important that you know what we're there to do, because they will ask everybody individually. Generally, it depends on who we're dealing with exactly, but they will ask you, what are you here for? And I mentioned that we were going to do a conference. Surprise said we were doing meetings, and the other guy said, I don't know. And that was enough for them to say, And I met the one guy 2 days before, and they said, you're going to Israel with this guy that you've met 2 days before. What are you up to? And so literally it was a 3.5 hour. They delayed the plane. They walked us through under guard, armed guard, through the airport, in front of everybody else where we were holding their plane up, sat us down in 3 places in the plane, 3 separate places, and then they let everybody board. We couldn't take anything but a Bible and our phones on there, not even our carry-ons. So it was they sent everything. Everything was fine, but it was just a very unique thing. And that wasn't coming out of the U.S. It was actually coming out of South Africa. But it was just a very, LL, and I don't know if we're going with LL or who we're going with exactly, but LL is unbelievably high security. And going into Israel, it is very high security, very high. They will search things. No, just be prepared for that.
Which is good.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's good for us.
I mean, you know, they're
very the best in the
they're very
world.
nice there. You know, one of the things I do get asked a lot about is the safety in Israel. You know, this is just a personal opinion. My personal opinion is I think it's an extremely safe place to be.
Absolutely.
They have the best security around. When you're in Jerusalem, you'll see the sense of safety that they feel there. You'll see kids literally walking around unaccompanied even. I mean, there's just a sense of it's a very safe feeling city.
Yeah.
When I was there, we actually did go into the West Bank. You know, no problems. Just felt very secure.
Right.
So they do have high security. Obviously, we'll just have to be prepared in the airports to, you know, we'll get there early, even when we leave from New York. You know, we're not going to show up there an hour and a half before flight departs. We'll be there several hours ahead of time just to get through all the security. And when we leave Israel, it'll be a lot of security that we'll go through. But again, that's a good thing. It's, you know.
Yeah.
There is, yeah, Kelly?
What's the plan for getting from here to New York City?
Good question. We don't necessarily have a plan at the moment. As a general thing, we're all responsible to get ourselves to New York. What we'll probably do is try to organize some kind of group transportation, whether it's we can find some people to volunteer to drive us down. In past times, we've hired a driver in a van to take us all down. So we'll figure out something. It's not part of the cost of the trip. That part's not included. So everybody is, in a sense, you're responsible to get yourself to New York City. But certainly, since a lot of us are going to be coming from this area, we'll probably work out some kind of carpooling thing.
What
So-
night is the flood road?
September 28th.
Yeah, that's Monday night, the 28th of September. And we'll be at the Dead Sea that night.
How many hours are they ahead of us?
6.
6 hours, right? Yeah, they're about 6 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
So,
Rick asked, what about taking medicine? We should bring our prescriptions. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything, please
it's-
bring your medications. We don't,
it's usually like if you want to have a phone to be able to call back home or something, it's usually cheaper to rent a phone in Israel. The rates will be significantly cheaper probably than what you'll pay for your carrier here. And we'll have all that information for you. There's a great company that we might use. They will actually meet us at the airport. Whatever phone, whatever stuff you decide, you can order stuff so you can get internet connection on your computer or whatever. They have all that stuff. You can decide ahead of time if you want to get that. You'll see the prices. You can reserve it. They'll show up at the airport, give the phone to you all set to go, use it all week, and drop it off at the airport when we get there. It's a really easy process. I did that last time I was there, and it was cheaper to do that than to use my own phone and pay the rates I'm going to pay through Verizon. But that's an option. We'll have all that information. Once you've paid your deposit, we'll have like a packet for you that will give you all the information on everything you need, what to pack, things like phones and everything else.
By the way, if you do, and most in this area don't, but outside areas, if you do have T-Mobile, T-Mobile actually, because I use this all the time, you can text free from almost anywhere in the world, including Israel. Text free home. So
Not Verizon.
And then if you have Wi-Fi calling, you just have to be around a Wi-Fi, but you can handle all your calls that way. So.
All right. Let's just talk cost real quick. The total cost at this point is $35.95. What that will include is it includes most things. It includes the airfare from New York to Tel Aviv. It includes all the transfers from the airport to the hotels. It includes overnight accommodations. All the hotels, as you saw a few of the pictures, they're really nice hotels. Okay, so this is not roughing it. This is staying in, maybe not quite luxury, but one step below high luxury hotel. They're very, very nice. It includes breakfast and dinner every single day. It includes the luxury coach bus that we'll use to travel around. It includes all the entrance and site fees to every site, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And it includes the driver and the tour guide and all that. So it's a very comprehensive price. The only thing it does not include at this point is travel insurance, which you don't have to have. We do want to make sure you have at least medical coverage. So if your own health insurance does not provide medical coverage when you're traveling international, then you do want to get some basic kind of medical travel insurance. That will pretty much kind of insist on, because we don't want you to have an issue over there and not be able to get you taken care of, or at least get you back to the U.S. Does that make sense? I would recommend you get good insurance, and even trip cancellation and interruption insurance is usually helpful, but that's kind of up to you. It doesn't include lunches. So we'll do mostly pretty inexpensive lunches. It'll be kind of when we're out, we'll do some local places, sandwiches and falafels or whatever you like. Doesn't include the tips. So what we'll do is we'll ask that you bring, I think at this point it'll be $70, and bring that, give it to us, and we'll take care of all of the tips for the driver, the tour guide, the hotel, bellhops and all that kind of stuff. We'll just take care of all of that. You don't have to worry about it. You have to tip if you buy lunch and want to tip your waiter. That's up to you, but we'll take care of all the other tips.
What do you need a medical exam?
You don't. If you decide to get one, it's your cost. It's not part of the trip. That's just to be extra clear, and obviously your own personal spending money. So, but other than those few things, it includes everything else. You do not have to worry about everything else. So it's pretty comprehensive.
Anything on your bells to go with?
What's that?
You're going to hook us up with different
Yes.
people?
So this is based on a double occupancy. So if you're traveling as a single, we will hook you up with somebody else and your room together. If you have requests like, oh, my friend's going and I want to be with them, just let us know, and we'll obviously make that the case. We'll just assume husband and wives want to be in the same room. And then in terms of payments, there's a deposit due of $500 by March 31st. That guarantees your spot on the trip. Then there'll be a second payment of $1,300 due by June 10th, and that's primarily to cover airfare. So, and then the balance of the trip will be due by July 25th. All right. Any questions on that part or on anything?
Repeat the question.
Are there any limitations on the amount of people?
that are going to go? We probably will cut it off somewhere. So I mean, we don't want to have to do. We were joking this afternoon about taking 200, and it was just like, no, we don't want to take 200 people.
No, we're planning on around 25 to 30. We could probably, if there really was a lot of demand, we probably could go as high as 40, 45, but I think we're trying to really keep it more like in the 25 range.
It changes the whole nature because of what you're going to travel in, and just the logistics of everything.
Yeah. So, so that's where the deposit will be important, because that's what guarantees you're not actually on the trip unless the deposit's in the application's in.
How much walking around is there going to be? Is it more casual, or is it kind of, you're really not, you said it's kind of chaotic in some places. Does that mean you're like rushing to get from one point to another as far as walking around, or just?
Yeah, so the question had to do with how much walking around is it, how chaotic is it, are we going to be rushing and stuff? Okay, one, there'll be a lot of walking. So, yeah, you definitely want to be, I mean, it's not strenuous in that sense, but there's a lot. I mean, we're constantly walking to the sites and stuff. Obviously, we're taking the tour bus, and they're getting us as close to stuff as they can. But yeah, plan on a lot of walking. There are a lot of stairs you'll have to go up and down for different types of stuff. Some of the sites and things like that. As far as the chaos, no. I mean, obviously, we are going during a little busier time of the year, so Jerusalem itself will probably be pretty busy, especially if you go into like the markets, which is a really awesome experience, but it's super crowded. But as far as like rushing and running around, no. This is the intent isn't to cram so much stuff in that we have to rush people and run to things. We want to be able to take our time, enjoy a site, see what God is doing. So yeah, it's not going to be chaotic in that sense. It'll be pretty relaxed and peaceful. We always leave room just for flexibility anyways, just in terms of, you know, although we have an itinerary and we have a schedule and we have hotels booked, so we obviously have to be on schedule to some degree, but at the same time, you know, if we decide we don't want to go to a site, like if the group says, I don't have any interest in that site and we want to stay here and hang out, you know, we just may stay and hang out. Does that kind of answer your question? So, yeah, so it's not going to be like chaotic and rushed. It's really meant to be a fun, relaxed, you know, tour. But do be prepared for walking and be prepared for stairs. So as long as you can handle walking and stairs up and down, you know, we're not talking about super strenuous, you know, but a lot.
When it comes to charging our cell phones, will it be charged there for us? Or do we have to buy a special apparatus?
Oh, you mean like in the hotels and stuff? You mean like how does it work with? Yeah, I think they're 220 in Israel. So you do want to have some kind of converter.
Yeah.
The one off 220, but you're going to need an adapter to get to the plug because it's not a standard US way.
Yeah.
So we get this special adapter.
You can get them at Kmart, Walmart,
Amazon.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Yeah.
CVS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were talking about adapters for phones.
Yeah, you want some kind of an adapter. And you can get, Amazon's a good spot, or Best Buy would probably have it, and they're not too expensive. They're pretty cheap. So,
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Does this sound awesome? You guys all want to go? What's that? No, that's the deadline. So you can put it in any time before that. And it is first come, first served. So the first ones with deposits and applications in up
Yeah.
until we have to close it off. So it is in your interest to get it in sooner rather than wait. But it will be an awesome time.
My mother's gonna take me to Disney World, but I think I'd rather go here.
It's a really neat experience. There's
One of
nothing like it.
the things to understand, and just in regards to the whole financial thing, there are people who the Lord will speak to and say, "I really want you to go," and you probably will say, "I don't have the money to go." But begin making the decision to do what the Lord tells you, and begin stepping through the things. The Lord will provide it. I mean, I live that way, and so many I know do. The Lord will bring it, but you just have to trust Him for it. So, yeah. Because I think for many it'll be a life changer. It really will. Yeah. I've known many people who've gone on trips like this that actually end up moving over to Israel for periods of time to go minister there. I have a question. You might have missed the beginning of the session. Basically, as far as walking through the tour with everybody, Weston will be there, and surprise Satoli. Some of you may know him by the name Sapresa. Satoli, Heidi Baker speaks of him a lot. He directs all their pastors. Phenomenal man, and myself. So.
Are we gonna get on, is this a mission trip, or is it just to see Jerusalem?
It's going to have everything in it, I promise you. By the time you're done, you'll say, "Wow, didn't realize we could do all that on a trip."
Veronica?
Separating out the airfare so that if anybody wants to use alternative means.
Yep, that is a possibility. So if you look at the price, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but roughly speaking, there's probably about $1,500 of that price is for airfare. So if you want to make your own airfare arrangements, that is something you could do. Like, I know there's some people who are talking about maybe coming back through Europe and staying in Europe or something, or if you wanted to go early or stay later on your own, type thing, or if you wanted to, use points, or miles or something to buy your ticket, that's certainly an option for you. What we'll do is we'll let you know which flight we're going to be on, and if you can get on that flight, you can do that, or at least we'll let you know what time you have to be in Jerusalem or in Tel Aviv by. You basically have to make sure you're in Tel Aviv by the time we're in Tel Aviv as a group. Otherwise, you have to make your own arrangements to get to the first hotel. Does that make sense? But if you want to be able to do that, then you can talk to me and we'll work it out. But roughly $1,500 is airfare, so you could book your own airfare, and then the difference, roughly $2,000-ish, would be for the rest of the tour that you would have to pay. Does that kind of make sense? So if you wanted to book your own airfare or make special arrangements, you could do that. I am not sure which airline. We're actually going through a consolidator tour guide to get sort of a special price. So we don't know at this point which airline we're going to be on. We will know, don't worry, we will know, and it will be a major airline. So it won't be a surprise, but I'm just saying at this point in the process, we haven't confirmed.
I might have coupons for travel.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll be on the flight, so I'll be making sure it's a good airline. No flying through the Ukraine. When I was first looking at prices, I found one price. It was like $600 round trip. I'm like, how can you get airfare round trip for $600? And I found out it was like a Ukrainian airline that was flying through Ukraine. I'm like, okay. Yeah, you're like on a Russian cargo jet or something. So we're not taking those. we're flying a serious major airline.
You forgot the parachute.
It'll be good. It will be a long flight. Like I said, at this point, direct flights are pretty rare, so we're probably going to have a layover. I suspect it'll be in Europe. So we're probably looking at a 14 or 15-hour flight. So, and we usually fly at night.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's 8 hours.
Right.
for those who can sleep or use sleeping aids,
Probably be London, Amsterdam, or Frankfurt.
yeah.
That's likely.
So 18 hours total, is what you're saying, or 18 hours?
Yeah, we'll find out exactly, but I would anticipate we're looking at a good 14 or 15-hour total flight. It's possible it could be as high as 17 or 18 with a layover. I mean, in terms of flying time, direct flying time is only about 11 hours. Only, yeah.
Pretty good.
13 hours to Saudi.
Yeah. So it's a good. We're flying far.
But they put good movies on.
Yeah, there'll be movies. There'll be what? Yeah, you know. Be good. You'll make it.
Yeah.
Right. Any other questions? Anything we didn't cover that you wanted to see covered, or all right?
Is the temperature about the same as what it is for being that we're going in the fall? Is it like typical 70s, 80s?
You know, it probably is similar to New England. That's it'll be. Yeah, I'm trying to think now. It'll probably be warm days. I would anticipate days in like the 70s. The nights will get cooler, down into the 40s and 50s. And of course, depending on where we are, Jerusalem is actually a hill, mountain, so it can get a little bit cooler at night.
So we can dress casual, we don't have any kind of dress code as far as we don't have to wear skirts or...
Yep, you can do all that. The only thing, and we'll have more details on this, there are some of the sites are religious sites, and they have requirements. Like, for example, the ladies, they don't like your shoulders showing. But we'll have more details on that. And basically, in those cases, just bring something in your day bag, and when we go into that particular site, throw on a extra shirt or something, or a shawl or something to go into it. But other than that, there's no.
Pants, nobody's going to have a problem with that.
Nope, you can go however you want to. You can be casual, shorts and sandals and T-shirts and whatever it is you like to dress in. But just for a couple of the religious sites, they'll require us to cover up certain things.
Will you have another meeting at some point?
Yeah, so what we'll do is once we get near to the trip, those who are actually going on the trip, we'll have a team meeting. We'll discuss specifics. We'll talk about the team and stuff like that, and make sure. And again, we're actually putting together a package. So after your deposit and application are in, we'll have a whole detailed packet for you that will give you suggested packing list. It'll give you all that kind of information that you need. So.
You want to make a checkout or cash?
Yep, you can do cash, you can do a check, you can do an e-check, you can pay online if you use our website. You can pay online. What's that? It is non-refundable.
500 is not.
Yeah, it's non-refundable unless we cancel the trip ourselves. Then obviously we will give you your money back. But other than that, it's non-refundable. Yeah, no, because we actually have to make deposits ourselves and stuff, and that second payment is basically covering airfare. So that stuff has to all get booked and stuff. So once your payments are in, it's non-refundable, I guess, unless we decide for some reason to cancel the trip before we make payments. We'll give you your money back, obviously. Yep. Yep. The only thing, if you do want to pay by credit card, you're welcome to. The only thing is you do have to add in 3% to the cost to cover the credit card fee. In other words, we don't really want to pay the credit card fee for you. Hope you understand that. So, what's that?
Same thing.
Same thing?
Yep.
3%?
Yeah, yeah.
Debit or credit, you
So
will pay 3%.
the price is the cash price that we have to pay. Um, so any kind of fee that we would get charged for you using a car, we just have to pass that on to you, basically. Otherwise, we have to eat it. So.
How will someone who's going to be booking their airfare separately, how will that transaction affect the deposits and the subsequent? Where would you want that taken out of the fee?
I'm not sure if I can answer that right at the moment.
What was the
If somebody wants to book their own airfare, how does that affect the payment schedule, deposits, stuff like that?
Yeah, we would talk to the folks that we're using and find out when they need their money by for hotels and things like that.
So if you want to do that, just come talk to us personally, and we'll just kind of work out.
We don't
that-
think there's going
that
to be many
specific.
of those.
I think most people want to go as a group, but if you do, just come talk to us. We'll work it out.
Or maybe you can get free flyer miles on that flight if you get it in Delta or United or whatever. I don't know if they go to Israel or not. But,
Most of the major airlines do.
yeah.
Yep. So, all right.
No, when we fly, we always try to pay by credit card because then you have flight insurance.
When you pay by credit card, there's a couple things that actually happen. Depends on if you've registered your credit card with a frequent flyer place, you will get miles for booking using the credit card, which is one advantage. But you also can, it depends on the credit card, I think, you do get a travel insurance thing with the credit card if you have to have the right kind of a card for that. But yes.
Well, we're paying cash, so we don't get that.
Right, if you pay cash, you don't get that.
Right.
Yeah.
We will actually have one that we'll probably suggest, and we'll have all that information for you on. We'll have prices and where to get that and stuff like that.
There is a Facebook, just went up last night, that we will try and get it out. But basically, we'll keep it updated with information on that site. If you're planning on going, now you always with a Facebook, you have people that say, yeah, I'm going, and they're not going. We hope we don't get too many of those, but it might help give us a little bit of a flavor happening over the next 30 days anyways to know it looks like this many are coming. So and not everybody's on Facebook either, but there'll be information there as well that we're going to try and keep updated. And it's just called Israel 2015, and that's the name of the page. So. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You actually got one about the information meeting tonight. Right, but actually if you go to that one, the link to the other one is in that one. I did them both. So you probably have, just make sure you're not on the information page. That's actually going to be gone probably tonight. I'll probably just delete it. Well, no, I probably won't, because we'll have the video posted on that site for other people who want to be able to see it. But on this particular one, this will be I think, unless you guys have another site, but I'll just make you guys as well able to access as admins and things like that. We keep it updated. So.
We good? All right.
Great.
Awesome. Can we just pray?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Father, I just want to thank you for this time that we've had tonight, and Lord, we are looking forward to anticipation, making this trip to Israel. We just anticipate that you will be with us, and that you will reach and touch each person who will be on this trip. Lord, I just believe that you have a purpose for us going. You have a purpose for each individual, that you will just move on their hearts to want to be part of the team. And so, Father, we just commit the whole thing to you and trust your goodness, and just ask that you would, for each person that you would have go, you would just provide the finances necessary. I would just pray that we would gel as a team, that the reason for going would be accomplished, that each person would come away from this trip with their faith enriched, their love for you just increased, or that you would have an encounter and personally meet each person who would come on this trip. So we just thank you. We thank you for the leaders and those helping out to administer it, and just pray your blessing upon them. And we just thank you and love you and ask all this in the wonderful, precious name of Jesus. Amen. All right. Well,
Bless
thanks
you.
for coming. Bless you guys.
Thank you.